As you know, with our Azure Adaptive Cloud approach, we are helping customers in hybrid, multi-cloud, and edge environments. And that means we include products and solutions such as Azure Arc, Azure Local, Azure IoT Operations, and many, many more. Now, to jumpstart that experience in the Azure Adaptive Cloud and help you evaluate, test, and do proof of concepts, that is where we built and designed Arc Jumpstart for it. So the Jumpstart is designed to provide a zero-to-hero experience so you can start working with the Azure Adaptive Cloud right away. For example, Jumpstart provides a step-by-step guidance for independent Azure Arc scenarios that incorporate as much automation as possible, detailed screenshots, and even code samples, and a rich and comprehensive experience while getting started with the Azure Arc platform. Our mission is for us to have a working Azure Adaptive Cloud environment spun up in no time so that users can focus on the core values of the platform regardless of where your infrastructure may be, either on-premises or as a sandbox environment in the cloud. So the best way to get started with Jumpstart is going to the Jumpstart website on jumpstart.azure.com. On this website, you can find all the different artifacts and solutions to really help you with your adaptive cloud journey, and helps you to find solutions such as Azure Arc, Azure Local, and Azure IoT Operations. So we are here now on the Jumpstart website, and you can see here I can scroll through the menu and find more information on how to get started with different things. But what I want to drive you here first and show you is actually the whole set of the Arc Jumpstart universe. Now, Jumpstart offers multiple kind of things here, and if you look at this, we just highlighted a few here on the starting page, such as Jumpstart Scenarios, Jumpstart Agora, Jumpstart ArcBox, Jumpstart HCIBox, Jumpstart Drops, and Jumpstart Gems. And those are just a few of the different offerings what the Jumpstart universe offers to you. And we will go through some of these here to actually have a look on how they work and how they can help you accelerate your hybrid, multi-cloud, and edge journey. So let's have a first look at Jumpstart Scenarios. Jumpstart Scenarios really help you to get your Azure Arc journey from zero to hero in a very automated way. So we have different scenarios here. So if I click on this, you can find more information, and you can actually sort this by having the different scenarios you need. So if you're looking, for example, a scenario where you want to include your hybrid or multi-cloud or edge deployment of Kubernetes, you can find it here as well. But there's many, many more things you're actually looking at. So for example, if you're looking to manage your servers, Linux and Windows on premises or in multi-cloud environments using Azure Arc, we have this covered here. If you're more on the SQL side, we have also scenarios where we're focusing on SQL Server specifically. If you want to embed your VMware environment, you can do that too with Azure Arc, and so we have scenarios around this as well. Same thing for data services, machine learning, and app services. And then we also have a set around edge and IoT solutions. So we have offered a couple of scenarios in this case to onboard your solutions and actually build your environment so you can test it out either on premises with your own hardware, at other cloud providers, or for example also in sandbox environments in Azure, which makes it super convenient to test these solutions without even having to have your on-premises hardware. So to show you a little bit how these scenarios work and how that looks like, let's dive into the server one just as an example. So if I click on the server scenarios, you will find here a huge list of what you can do. And the first one is really about onboarding servers and Arc enable them to the Azure control plane. And for that, you can, for example, use that to, if you have existing servers you want to onboard, you can do that too. But then we also have solutions where you can actually deploy VMs or servers at other cloud providers, on-premises VMware infrastructure, or then even in Microsoft Azure. Now, if you do that, Azure Arc is not designed to manage systems which are in Azure by default, because they're already managed by Azure. But like as many customers, they want to try it out first. So we built this like sandbox environment for you there so that you can deploy a server in Azure and make it look as it would be an Arc-enabled server running on premises or at the edge. So again, you can have a look at these different scenarios, and let's have a look. If I, for example, have a VMware environment, in my case, I could go to VMware, and then I can select, do I actually want to onboard a Linux machine with Ubuntu, or do I have a Windows Server machine which I want to onboard? So for that, let's have a look at Windows Server in this case, and we're making it very, very simple to actually do this. So we have a Git repo, and we have all the commands here to actually leverage that for all the scripts, so you don't need to do a lot and don't have need to have a lot of experience. So for example, you can clone the Git repo here, and then you can actually go in and log in with the Azure CLI, and from that on you can then trigger your installation of these VMs and provide all the specific deployment options here as well. Again, after that, this Arc demo VM will then show up, and it will also show up in the Azure portal here as well. Again, super easy to quickly deploy and try out Azure Arc enabled server on your on-prem VMware infrastructure. If you don't have an on-prem VMware infrastructure, or you don't want to try it out anywhere else, but you have an Azure subscription, as mentioned, you can also use that in Azure to kind of like have a sandbox and the evaluation experience here as well. So if I click again here on Microsoft Azure, again, this is not for production purposes. This is really just for testing and evaluation purposes only, because again, these VMs deployed in Azure, they are usually already managed by the Azure control plane. So again, in this case, let's say we want to deploy a Linux machine in Azure, which then is managed through Azure Arc. I can click on this. And again, here I get a lot of description on what I need to do. But basically, again, I need to log in to my Azure account using the Azure CLI, and then basically run the specific commands so I can then run a script to actually deploy this. Or we also have an option here which has this deploy button, and this will then basically use a ARM or bicep template to actually go out and just use that in the Azure portal to deploy that solution, and it will basically automate the step here as well if you want to do it that way, or again on option 2 where you actually can do this manually using the command line. So basically to clone the Git repo and then run the specific CLI commands as well. After that, you can log in to your server there and basically start managing it from there. And again, it will show up as an Arc enabled server in the Azure portal, so you can try it out easily and figure out how this works. Now, if we scroll down all the way, we also have a step to actually clean up this whole process. So with deleting the resource group which was created during the deployment process, you can easily clean up that specific deployment, and again, it disappears from your Azure subscription. Now, obviously, be aware wherever you deploy this, there's certain cost involved. So if you deploy it as an Azure VM, there's obviously cost for the Azure VM. And if you start obviously connecting Arc-enabled services, that is obviously true there for that as well. Here. So let's go back to the homepage and actually have a look at some of the other options here. And we will go very, very quick because some of them we will have a deeper look later on, such as the ArcBox and HCIBox and Drops. Now, another thing I want to talk about is Jumpstart Agora. So Jumpstart Agora really is a scenario-driven solution for industry applications. So it really allows you to have these cloud-to-edge scenarios depending on the industry. So this is like setting up the whole the hybrid and edge infrastructure for you, but also the Azure side of that, and provides you with some demo applications as well. So if you want to try out, like for example, some solutions like supermarket solutions or retail solutions, you can do that here with these Agora solutions here as well. If we go back, there is more which Arc Jumpstart offers. We also have Jumpstart Gems, which is a great set of technical artifacts, if you will, such as architectural diagrams or other visual assets here. So you can basically go and download like the architecture diagrams. So basically what it does in Jumpstart Gems, you get this huge zip file, which basically provides you with multiple assets. So you can find, for example, more information in the presentation deck about Arc Jumpstart, which you can learn more about all the things we are talking about. But then we are also offering like these architectural diagrams. So if I open this up, we can basically have that PowerPoint here. And this basically provides you with a large amount of diagrams for our Azure Adaptive Cloud environments for technologies such as Azure Arc, Azure Local, and Azure IoT Operations, as I mentioned now multiple times. So you can basically go through and you get really these very good architecture diagrams on how things are connected. So if you're looking for anything specific to talk to and figure out how things work, not just related to Jumpstart, but especially to the product itself, you can find this as an asset here under Jumpstart Gems. So for example, here we have a diagram here on how the Arc gateway works. If you go up a little bit more, you can see here how those things are connected together. Same thing, you can scroll through. As you can see here, we're not going through all the different diagrams here, but for example, we also have some on the data flow and IoT operations, and much more you can actually use here for your adaptive cloud deployment. So going back to the overview side, there's also things like ArcBox and HCIBox. So ArcBox and HCIBox are bringing these whole experiences together. ArcBox, for example, deploys you an Azure Arc-enabled environment with all the different kinds of things you want. For example, it deploys you Arc-enabled servers, it can deploy you Kubernetes clusters connected, and many different things. And we will have a deeper dive on this as well. But so if you want to try out all the different Arc-enabled services, ArcBox is a great way of doing this. Similar to ArcBox, we also have HCIBox, which really allows you to test Azure Local. So it deploys a virtual instance in Azure as a sandbox environment with like nested virtualized basically Azure Local hosts. So it looks like you have actually physical hardware somewhere, but it's actually hosted in Azure. So you can really test it out and evaluate even without having your own hardware. So this is a great way of testing Azure Local as well. And so there's much more. With Jumpstart Drops, we are offering also these small assets as well. So if you want to create anything specific, you have created a script to help in certain cases for the Azure Adaptive Cloud, you can host it here and basically share it with the rest of the community. So as you can see here, we have here multiples of these drops where we worked, for example, also with NVIDIA, community members inside Microsoft MVPs, or just general customers and partners to actually help and share these things. So for example, if you're looking at a multi-cloud connector with Azure Arc, we have here a great drop. So if you go open this up, you can basically find more on what to do, and this drop will really help you getting started. So if I click on Get Started, we have basically some guidance here, how you can quickly deploy this and connect, for example, your AWS environment to the Azure control plane. And again, there's much more on this. So some of them are focused on automations, our scripts, tools, and so on, but there's also some tutorials or other guidance here or artifacts as well, which you can basically share with the community, and you can also find this here as well. So that was an introduction to Arc Jumpstart. I hope this was helpful, and see you in the next one.